toxic masculinity.
Rudy Giuliani has been raided by the feds. Okay, so we got Rudy Giuliani raided by the feds. Uh-oh. I don't have that set up. As I said, least professional show on YouTube. All right, there we go. Federal agents raid Rudy Giuliani's New York City apartment in their Ukraine probe. Sure, that's why they're raiding his apartment, the Ukraine probe. Well, let me read you a little bit on here, and then I'll go ahead and I have a little tiny insight into what's happening here because I have one friend who happens to know these people. All right, let's have a look here. Federal agents raided former Mayor Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan apartment and office on Wednesday morning. Two law enforcement sources briefed on the matter told the Post. The agents executed a search warrant and seized electronic devices from both locations, one source said. The moves were tied to an investigation into Giuliani's dealings in Ukraine, according to reports. Oh, actually, let me just throw a question out there to my guy, Sebastian Gorka. Okay, one more question. Let's see here. So a resident of Giuliani's Upper East Side building on East 66th Street said that the doorman described greeting the agents at 6 a.m. and letting them pass when they displayed a search warrant. The raid marked an escalation in the Fed's probe of the former mayor who's being investigated over whether he illegally lobbied former President Donald Trump on behalf of officials and oligarchs in Ukraine, according to the New York Times. The Ukrainian officials were also reportedly helping Giuliani dig up dirt on Trump's political rivals, including then Democrat candidate Joe Biden and his son Hunter. The warrant sought communications between Giuliani and other people, including political columnist John Solomon, who had communicated with Giuliani about the effort, the mayor's lawyer told the Wall Street Journal. So, specifically, I guess, they had authority to try to seize any kind of communications between Giuliani and John Solomon. So it looks like this might be an investigation into John Solomon, right? And that Rudy Giuliani might just be sort of like an associate of John Solomon's, and so they've got this warrant to go after Rudy Giuliani to get his correspondence. But they do say here that this is somehow regarding his connection with people in Ukraine. I mean, this is all so crazy. I mean, if you are trying to investigate the criminal activity of somebody abroad, right? Somebody who's in another country, you've got to work with the people in that other country, right? If somebody commits a crime in another country, you go to that country and you dig up dirt in that country. I don't know how that's a criminal activity. I don't know if that's something that needs to be investigated. That doesn't make any sense at all, but let's keep reading. Well, I will say this. Okay, so let me give you the little bit of insight that I've got now. Because of this connection between John Solomon and Rudy Giuliani, I think some people might suspect that maybe they're just targeting Rudy, or maybe they're just targeting John or something like that. They also busted down the door of Victoria Tunzing's house. And here's the thing about that. So Victoria Tunzing and her husband and Giuliani and John Solomon, these are four of the people who have been the most aggressive in collecting evidence against Joe Biden in his dealings in Ukraine and collecting evidence against his son Hunter Biden. They're the ones who have really been pushing for investigations into these people and collected a lot of evidence against them, Joe and Hunter specifically. So it's obvious what's happening here to me. That they are targeting these good men for political persecution. So when I was reading about this, and somebody was texting me talking about how maybe they're after John Solomon specifically, I went ahead and I texted Sebastian Gorka, because he knows all these guys, right? And I said, do you think they're just after John Solomon, or do you think they're after everybody? Do you think they're after all of them? And he just wrote back, all of them. Basically, his position is that he thinks that this is kind of like a warning shot, right? They're trying to scare everybody. They're basically, hello, higher than that. Okay, so he's responding. Okay, do you think they're trying to hide all the Hunter stuff? Okay, so I was suspecting that maybe because they really, look, the FBI has Hunter's laptop, right? They've known for a long time what Hunter's guilty of, what he's not guilty of. They know what they can charge him on. They know what they can investigate him for. They haven't done anything with that laptop, right? They've had it for ages. I'm thinking, what if they realize Victoria Tunzing has some evidence, Giuliani has some evidence, all these people have evidence. Can we, what do we do with it? Do we just, destroy it? Do we find it? Do we get rid of it? So I've asked Sebastian Gorka, who knows all these guys, do you think they're trying to hide the Hunter stuff? And Sebastian Gorka's written higher than that, although that's part of it. How do you get higher than Hunter Biden? That wasn't supposed to be a drug joke. How do you get higher than Hunter Biden? Well, who's higher than Hunter Biden? His dad is higher. So I think they're trying to cover up stuff for Joe. That's what's being suggested here. And I think Sebastian Gorka is right. And I don't think you'd mind me telling you that's what he's thinking. Yeah, they're going and they're trying to cover the tracks of Joe Biden. They're trying to cover up all the evidence of Joe Biden's wrongdoing. When I asked him about the Hunter stuff, obviously I meant everything in the laptop, all the stuff that incriminates Joe Biden. But he's clearly responded, which I like. Here's the thing about that. If the FBI has all this dirt on Hunter, if they have all this dirt on Joe, and they can prosecute them if they want, they can investigate it, and then they can send it to the courts, and the courts can prosecute them. This gives the FBI a lot of power. Now, I mentioned this a lot on my show. I'm mentioning it in the new videos that I'm going to put out here on my Mr. Reagan channel. The CEO of Overstock, and I don't know, look, I'll be honest, I don't know how many people have started, just disregarded what this guy has to say. His name's Patrick Byrne. Okay? And he said a lot of stuff that sounds pretty crazy, conspiracy theory type stuff. And a lot of people have just dismissed him as a kook, as a nut job. But the guy's like a multimillionaire. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't know what he has to gain from lying about this stuff. People are like, oh, he's lying. They're just dismissing him. I've never heard anybody say he's lying. I've never heard anybody say that the stuff that he's saying is not true. I've just seen an apparent lack of enthusiasm to cover what he's been saying. And there's an interview on my channel. You should look it up. Patrick Byrne, Overstock CEO. I don't know what I called it. In fact, I'm going to look it up because it's that important. Let's see, YouTube. I'll go to my Mr. Reagan channel. Okay. But what he says in this video. Why is Jordan Peterson? That's my little trailer, which I have to change because it's been there forever. All right, videos. What Patrick Byrne says in this video. Nope, I don't have it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's it. This is it. So I compiled a bunch of interviews with Patrick Byrne and various people. These are different interviews over time where he's basically saying he's got all this stuff on Hillary Clinton and nobody's paying attention to it. Let's see how many views I got on here. 77,000 views, but it needs to get more. Everybody needs to watch this video. All right. I called this video Hillary accused of accepting $18 million bribe. So this guy, according to this interview that he does, he says that he was approached by the FBI to wear a wire and go in and talk to Hillary Clinton. He was supposed to set up a meeting between her and some kind of foreign dignitary, right? This foreign dignitary was then going to bribe Hillary Clinton with $18 million. And Hillary Clinton was, going to react. He was going to get it on tape. He was going to take it to the FBI. And then, presumably they would send her up, right? They would have her be prosecuted and she'd go to prison. So it worked, right? According to Patrick Byrne, he went in, he interviewed, or he set up the meeting between Hillary and this guy. The guy offers the money. Hillary accepts the bribe. This is back when she's the Secretary of State. And okay, done. Work done. The guy's a national hero, right? He feels good about himself. He's done this great thing. Then later on, he meets up with his FBI guy, his contact at the FBI, and he says, "Hey, what's going on with the Hillary thing? I haven't heard anything about that." He's expecting it to be on the news and stuff, right? He's like, "What? I don't understand what's happening." And the guy says, "Oh no, you got to forget about that. That never happened." Patrick Byrne's like, "But it did happen. Like, what's going on?" The guy says, "We're just going to use that, dirt against her." This is back before the election, back before the 2016 election, because we're just going to use that dirt against her to control her once she's president, right? This is what Patrick Byrne has said. And so he's sitting there thinking, oh, crap, I didn't help out the country by putting away a criminal, somebody who's a corrupt politician. I actually helped out other corrupt actors in the deep state who want to control corrupt politicians. So then he realized, shoot, I just did this really bad thing. When you're doing the show, sometimes people send you important texts. So I pick up my phone and it's, Chris, get your membership for free, 3 years. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what they're offering. It's some kind of BS thing. That was a nice distraction. Thank you, telemarketers. Anyway, so yeah, very important stuff. So if Patrick Byrne's telling the truth, look, maybe he's crazy. I know people who know Patrick Byrne. They think that he's a literal genius. One guy told me that if you name any date in history, he can tell you all the stuff that happened on that date. Like you tell him your birth date and he's just like, oh yeah, that's when this happened. All these celebrities were born on that day. He just has all this trivia from that day. He's like a super genius or something. Is he crazy? Maybe. I don't know him personally. But he sounds credible to me. Okay. What does this have to do with the Giuliani stuff? Because if the FBI has dirt on Biden, and this is something that I've said for a very long time, and if they have dirt on Hunter, these are very easy to control people, right? So the FBI would essentially control the White House, right? This would be the deep state controlling the federal government. And it's funny, actually, I've been doing a lot of research on conspiracy theories. And they classify this as a conspiracy theory, and technically it is, because it's not it's not an accepted conspiracy by the establishment, right? So it's still a theory because it hasn't been accepted. It's not being written about in the history books, right? No political science teacher is teaching that there is a cabal of deep state operators that are actually running the federal government, even though clearly Biden isn't running anything. But who is running things? That's something I've been trying to figure out. Obviously, it could be a lot of people that have influence over what's going on in DC right now, in the executive branch, in the White House. But I think that it's fairly clear the FBI has a hand in it. The intelligence agencies in DC right now certainly have a great deal of control over what happens, over what Joe Biden's doing. Now, do they control every single policy? I don't think so. I'm not sure that it's in the FBI's best interest to meddle in things like, green energy and the Black Lives Matter crap that they're doing, right? The education, stuff like that. I don't think they care so much about that. But maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they do. But it looks like the FBI does have control over Joe Biden. They do have control over Hunter. They can manipulate these guys in any way they wish. But if enough evidence was presented to the public to clearly destroy Hunter, to clearly destroy Joe Biden, it would remove the power of those federal agencies to control Joe Biden. So it's possible this whole operation, to some degree, has something to do with keeping Joe Biden safe, secure, not destroyed by Rudy Giuliani or Victoria Tunzing or any of the folks that are involved here, John Solomon and whatnot. But and to some degree, I also think that it's kind of a thing like if you continue to try to take out Joe Biden, if you continue to try to dig up dirt on Hunter and all this kind of stuff, we're going to take you out, right? Because they have no authority to go into Rudy Giuliani's house. They have no authority to do that. This is obviously a BS made-up warrant. They have no what do you call it? What you have to have like reasonable cause or something like that to get a warrant. I don't remember what the words are, but anyway, something like that. They have to have a good reason to get a warrant. There's no good reason to get a warrant on Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani is not an enemy of the state. Rudy Giuliani isn't committing crimes. It's ridiculous. All right, let me read the rest of this article real quick. Lawyer Robert Costello told the Journal that the warrant outlined an investigation into the suspected violation of overseas lobbying regulations. He's lobbying. Okay, come on. Giuliani was awakened by the feds who seized his cell phone and other devices, Costello told the ABC News. Why didn't his doorman call him? Some doorman he's got. Time to fire that guy. At Giuliani's office, they seized items, including a computer used by longtime assistant Joanne Zafonte, who's been subpoenaed to appear by before a federal grand jury next month, Costello said. They're trying to make Rudy Giuliani look like a criminal, Costello told ABC. He has done nothing wrong. Well, exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? They're trying to make him look like a criminal. They're trying to let him know we're in charge now. You're not, and we can do whatever we want, basically. This is total authoritarianism, you guys. And this is really why this is the biggest story of the day and maybe the biggest story of the year so far. I mean, aside from maybe January 6th. But yeah, this is sorry, I need to put it back on that. This is the biggest violation I think maybe possibly that I've ever seen of people's civil rights, of the federal government, federal agents coming in and just terrorizing American citizens, regular American citizens. You're not allowed to investigate this. You're not allowed to do things we don't allow you to do. Right? This is tyranny or tyranny, even. This is how third world dictatorships work, right? We're going to persecute our political enemies, right? So we don't like these Republicans over here, so we're just going to send the feds out to intimidate them, and if they don't obey, we're going to just send them to prison, send them to the gulag. This is how Soviet Russia worked. This is how Cuba works. This is how North Korea works. It's not how America is supposed to work, okay? We have criminals in the deep state, in the federal government right now, doing whatever they want. They do not care. They don't care about the law. They don't care about justice. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about any of that. America is very quickly becoming a third world dictatorship. All right, let's see here. Costello called the raids legal thuggery. I would say they're illegal thuggery, but yeah. Saying he'd repeatedly offered in vain to answer questions from investigators if they agreed to detail the subject of their probe. It's like I'm talking to a wall, he told the Journal. Investigators in the Justice Department had tried for months to secure the search warrant, according to the Times. Investigators in the Justice Department had tried for months to secure the search warrant. That says a lot, right? They were hunting for a judge. They were hunting for some excuse to get this search warrant. They didn't have just cause. That's what I was looking for. Just cause. They didn't have just cause to get a search warrant, obviously. But they kept on, working it out until they figured it out. They found people that were compliant and would give them that search warrant. This is an illegal search. This is an illegal search and seizure. This is an illegal entry into his house. I don't care if they had a search warrant, okay? This is illegal. Their search warrant is BS. Everybody knows it. This is obvious. Let's see here. tried for months to get the search warrant. Prior to President Biden taking office, Trump appointees at the DOJ had tried to block approval of the warrant, the Times said. Well, naturally. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York declined to comment. A call to Giuliani's cell phone went straight to voicemail Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I have a friend that's connected to these people, and he'll respond to me and answer questions that I ask. This is unbelievable. But here's the thing: this is not shocking. This is not shocking. I mean, it's shocking, but it's not. It's totally in line with what you should expect from the Biden administration, right? These people are not. They don't care about America in the same way that we do, right? They're not patriots. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about the American people. They care about power. Consider what they're doing to the protesters from January 6th that walked through the Capitol building, right? Absolute political persecution. That's what it is, political persecution. They're trying to scare conservatives into obedience, right? You know how Biden keeps coming up and saying, we need unity, guys. We need unity. Where am I? We need unity. Unity is a code word. Unity means obedience. What he's saying is the left believes certain things. The left's cool. The left agrees with us. The left's great. We don't care if you burn down buildings. We don't care if you march in the streets and kill people. We don't care about any of that. If you're a leftist, that's cool. You're on our side. You're going to vote for us. You're going to keep us in power. You're good. If you're on the right, you're going to give us a hard time. But we don't need you to be giving us a hard time. So what you need to do is you need to comply. You need to bend the knee. You need to submit to our authority. Then we'll all be unified. Don't you understand? All this suffering can end if you just submit to our authority. That's what the left is doing here, right? That's what the left's doing with Rudy Giuliani. That's what the left is doing with the protesters from January 6th. And we cannot let them do that. No, we will not comply. We will not submit. All right? We're concerned. We're real patriots, okay? We care about freedom. We care about civil liberties. We care about America, unlike you power-hungry lunatics. Now, I want to go back for a minute and revisit what happened during the Obama administration. Because remember, they kept saying, Trump's a fascist. Trump's going to do all these things that are going to take, he's going to be king of America. He's never going to leave office. He's just this terrible, terrible man. He's going to strip all the rights of all the black people away. If you're a black person, you're not going to have any rights anymore. If you're gay, you're not going to have any rights anymore. If you're a woman, we're going back to the 1950s, sister. You're going to have to be barefoot in the kitchen when Trump's in office. Of course, none of that crap ever happened, You didn't have brown shirts knocking in people's doors when Trump was in office, unless you were a Trump associate, and then, you never knew what was going to happen. But Trump never sent any troops out to go attack anybody, to arrest anybody, to go, search their apartment unlawfully, just like try to make up an excuse for a warrant. Trump didn't do any of that kind of BS trickery because Trump didn't care about that kind of stuff. This is the stuff that happens when you are a politician first and a representative of the country second, right? You care more about the power and the manipulation of the politics than you do about serving the people. I don't even think that you could call them public servants second. I think that's like way down the line. I don't even think that's part of the equation, right? It's all strategy. It's all politics. And we're not necessarily even talking about politicians. A lot of these people are what we would call deep state operators, right? They're people that aren't elected. They're in the FBI or they're in some other part of the federal government. And they're there for so long. They make all these friendships. They make all these connections. And they can manipulate people in politics. They actually have power over the politicians sometimes. Obviously, this is true in the case of Joe Biden. Let's have a look here. Jay Sekulow. Victory. IRS admits Tea Party and other conservative groups were targeted during Obama era. You guys remember this? So back during the Obama era, the IRS was instructed to specifically to target conservative groups and remove their nonprofit status and charge them all kinds of absurd taxes because they wanted to destroy the Tea Party. The Tea Party was too powerful of a group when Obama was in power. And so they set out to destroy the Tea Party by overtaxing them. They used the IRS as a weapon of the executive branch of government. It was unbelievable. Something like that had ever happened before. It's crazy. It just absolute abuse of power. Let's look at another instance. Dinesh D'Souza. You guys remember this story? So Dinesh D'Souza had the gall to make a documentary speculating that Barack Obama actually didn't care that much about America. And in fact, he was an anti-colonialist, right? An anti-colonialist. An anti-colonialist was something that we weren't particularly aware of as a thing in America, right? Because Americans are all colonialists, right? We are all colonists, right? I mean, the ancestors of Americans are colonists. Our founding fathers were colonists. So, well, I mean, obviously a lot of them were born here, but you know what I mean. So the question is really, what is an anti-colonialist and what is, like, why is that bad? And you know, what's the story there? So Dinesh D'Souza makes this whole film about Dreams from My Father, right? Dreams from My Father, which was Obama's book. And Obama's father was an anti-colonialist. So if his father had a dream, an anti-colonialist dream, and Barack Obama wrote a book called Dreams from My Father, obviously he was taking that anti-colonialist dream from his father, and then he was going to apply it in whatever way he could as president. And Dinesh D'Souza's position was that, okay, so in India, they have certain people who are anti-colonialists, right? Because the British had colonies in India, and they hate Britain to this day. And Dinesh D'Souza says a lot of these people, they would love to just take Britain down, redistribute the wealth that they feel was stolen from their country. And it seems that many people around the world have this view. People in Africa have this view. Barack Obama's father was from Kenya. They were also a British colony, right? And so there's this idea that America is a land of colonists. So if you have an anti-colonial view, taking America down might not be such a bad idea. Redistributing America's wealth to the rest of the world might actually be a very good, noble thing to do. And Dinesh D'Souza saw signs that that was, in fact, what Barack Obama was doing. He was actually the opposite of Trump. It wasn't America first. It was America last. Let's take America's great wealth and redistribute it throughout the world, because America is this evil nation founded on colonialism, and the rest of the world would be improved with that money. So that was sort of the thesis of his film. When Dinesh D'Souza came out with this film and book, I think, this was a very popular movie, right? And Barack Obama obviously didn't like it. So Dinesh D'Souza, who did commit some kind of a campaign finance breach of campaign finance law, right? He gave too much money to a friend of his who was running for mayor of a town or something like that. And, he did this knowingly. He knew what the law was. He circumvented the law, just trying to basically help out his friend. Now, these laws are set up specifically so that people don't have influence on politicians. That's really the only reason that we have those laws. But, Dinesh D'Souza knew that he wasn't going to try to influence this person, in their position as mayor or whatever position they were trying to get. But so he thought, it's okay because I'm not violating the spirit of the law. I'm just violating the letter of the law. And so he was trying to give too much money to this girl, and he knew it. And the federal government came after him. Now, they've never come after anybody quite so hard. Dinesh D'Souza talks about it very eloquently if you ever want to watch a video about it on YouTube. But Barack Obama's Justice Department threw the book at him. They prosecuted him more severely than anyone has ever been prosecuted for that kind of campaign finance violation, like ever in the history of the country, because he was a political enemy of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was notorious for persecuting political enemies. Do you remember Michael Flynn? I don't even think I have to go through Michael Flynn. We all know what happened there. Targeted by the FBI, persecuted by Barack Obama's Justice Department. For what? To get at Trump, to try to take Trump out. Totally unethically, by the way. Here we go. Here's another one. James Rosen. You probably didn't even hear about this one. So Barack Obama decided that he was going to go after this guy, James Rosen. He was a Fox News reporter. The federal authorities secretly obtained the emails and tracked the movements of Fox News reporter James Rosen as part of an ongoing investigation of former State Department analyst Stephen Kim, who is charged with leaking classified a report on North Korea. Okay, this was universally regarded as persecution of a journalist that Barack Obama's Justice Department, Barack Obama's administration, Barack Obama himself maybe didn't like. They just didn't like this guy, so they just went after him. This was perfectly legitimate reporting that James Rosen was doing, and he was persecuted by Barack Obama's administration because that's what Barack Obama's administration did. They didn't care about civil rights. They cared about winning. They cared about control. Everything they accused Donald Trump of, Barack Obama was. Eric Holder. Okay, so this is from the AP. There was no possible justification for phone record seizure. So Barack Obama's buddy here, Eric Holder, he did this with the AP as well, Associated Press. He went around and he just seized communications from the AP in an investigation that he claimed was somehow justified to protect the country, even though it wasn't. This is just persecution of... They were trying to intimidate journalists to fall in line, right? Notice a pattern here? The Associated Press revealed Monday that the Justice Department seized phone records for bureaus in New York, Washington, and Hartford, Connecticut. This should never happen. This is super unethical and should be totally illegal, but it's happening through, from law enforcement. And so they can kind of finagle it so that it's legal technically, even though it's not really legal. James Machen, the U.S. attorney in Washington, notified the AP about the seizure in a Friday letter, but didn't explain why the call records were taken. The records from April to May 2012 covered 20 phone lines that were used by around 100 journalists, according to the AP. So again, they were just going after journalists to try to intimidate them. That's the general consensus of what was happening there. They did not care about the civil rights of the people they were going after. In fact, they were, I believe they were knowingly violating their civil rights. They were intentionally violating their civil rights. They wanted to do that because they want people to know the laws of the United States of America don't apply to us. If you think that you can use the law to protect you, you can't. You have no protection against us. You are totally vulnerable. You are totally at our mercy. We control you. We can destroy you anytime we want. They want to scare the hell out of every American because then they can control every American. Do not step out of line. We can't let this happen, right? So this is what's happening now with Rudy Giuliani. This is what's happening now with Victoria Tunzing. This is what's happening now with John Solomon. And this is what's happening now with the protesters from January 6th. They're trying to intimidate everybody to fall in line. You will obey us. I'm not going to obey you. Okay? Come after me. All right, so at the end of the day, I think this is probably one of the most dire times in U.S. history with regard to civil rights. I think that if you could track, the level of civil rights that Americans are able to have, right? I think that our quality of life, our prosperity in America, it increased during Trump's tenure as president. Then we hit the COVID pandemic, and Democrats just stripped us of all of our civil rights. As the COVID vaccine went into effect, and as these restrictions were lifted, we got more and more civil rights again. But now the Justice Department, the FBI, the different federal agents and agencies, and Barack Obama's administration is like, no. We got to make sure that at least Republicans know, at least conservatives know, that no, they have no civil rights. They have whatever rights we grant them, right? So it's like, once again, just like deep dive. America has to know you live in a tyrannical dictatorship now. This is not a democracy anymore. All right. All right. Well, that's it for that. That's depressing. Let's move on to the next story. So this one's a little bit more laughable. This is something I've been researching for a while now, several days, and Joy Behar just comes out and claims, no joke, she claims no liberal bias in the news media. Okay, so this is insane. Let's go ahead and switch to that other review so you guys can see the story here. She says, there's no liberal bias, Joy Behar claims. News outlets are basically balanced except for Fox and MSNBC. Toxic Masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.